Okay.
I told you now in 1992,
Okay.
they realized first, for us to control people, we first have to reduce their population.
Okay.
Because you cannot control 8 billion people under your rules. They decided and realized the first thing they have to combat population is to control the food. Because you control the food, you control the masses. And that is why you'll notice in this country that a majority of policies that have been happening for the last 10 years are policies that will ensure no one can be able to farm, and it will all lead to what we call complete takeover of food and agricultural practices from individuals to the globalist organizations. Let me make it clear. Their main objective is to control food and food production. So the best way to control food and food production is to ensure production of food is in their hands. But these people are so smart and they realize the only way to do it is not by force, but through policies. So what do? We have to create policies in all these different countries that will ensure we are the guys controlling food. And they started with food production. Today, in this country, a majority of the food we eat are GMO food. These GMO seeds are controlled by the same globalists I'm talking about. The biggest companies in the world, Monsanto, Cargill, DuPont, they're the guys who own all these seeds. During Kiunjuri's time in Uhuru Kenyatta's government, they brought in policies that gave those companies power in this country. They brought in policies and they were able to patent their seeds in this country today. Obina, in Kenya today, it is a crime to share organic seeds with my neighbor. If you're my neighbor and you need seeds to plant, it is a crime for me to give you my seeds, which are not patented. But who are the people who are owning these patented seeds? It's the globalists. So they can decide whether to sell it to you or not to sell it to you. And they'll decide to sell at their own price. GMO seeds are what you call terminator seeds. Once you plant them, you can never replant them.
Sure.
So you have to go back to the supplier and buy from him at his price. Today we are there. How did you reach there? Go and do your research. Check how much a kilo of GMO tomato seeds are. A kilo. The cheapest is 10 million shillings. Go and Google. Best quality is about 70 million shillings. Google. The information is out there. So they are taking us to a direction that will ensure in the next 5-10 years, there is no farmer who can afford to do farming. Look at the games that was played here with fake fertilizer. Can you anticipate the food shortage that will be here by end of the year? Out of 100 farmers who've done farming this year, Oga, how many will be able to plant next year? Look at the laws that are being put. The other day they proposed another bill to have a bill that anyone who is engaging in agricultural practices must have a certificate or a degree. So what does that mean?
Wow.
You cannot do farming without a certificate. 2 days ago, they introduced another law. It's called the Livestock Bill 2024, which was tabled by Kimani Ichung'wah on Friday. It says it is going to regulate livestock production and livestock input and production in this country. Number one, it will ensure any person is not allowed to process or to produce animal feed without certification from them. And it has a fine of 500,000 shillings. You cannot produce your own food and even sell to your neighbor. Number two, it stipulates it will give regulations to all inputs. Inputs, I'm talking of food, I'm talking of medication, everything. We will have a guideline. And if you use anything other than the input, you feed them what they don't want you to feed them, there is a fine of 1 million shillings or 2-year jail term. Number three, it proposes introduction of new institutions to govern this activity. There's what we call Livestock Marketing Board. There's what we call Livestock and Livestock Product Organization. There's another one called Veterinary Vaccine Organization, all to control this affair.
Kimani Ichung'wah tabled it.
In addition to that, because you will need licenses to do all these activities, it is proposing to create institutes where people need to go, learn, and have certificates. We'll have the Livestock Institute, we'll have the Beef Production Institute, we'll have the Dairy Production Institute, we'll have the Beekeeping Institute, and we'll have the Vaccine Institute. So all those are resources, but all those are pillars to ensure this thing is implemented. So tell me, how many people will be able to do livestock farming? And this livestock farming, it regulates cows, goats, sheep, bees, chicken, pigs, even camels. To whose interest is it? A few weeks ago, they had brought in another policy to say that all freehold properties neighboring towns should now start paying levies. How do you define a town? A town is defined as an area with a population of about more than 2,000 people. Do you know in Kenya, any town is any market is same as a town because it has 2,000 people and above. So it means basically the entire country, there will be no longer what you call freehold titles. You will be forced to pay what? Levies. So how many people will be able to pay? It means in the long run, a majority of Kenyans will lose their land. They proposed again to transfer powers from the National Land Commission to the minister. So the minister will decide every 10 years, the minister will decide the levies you're supposed to pay on your property. So it is gearing towards the agenda of land takeover and food and food production takeover. But it's like the government does not understand where they're being led to. And these policies are not policies implemented here. These are policies given to us by these organizations, globalist organizations. These are policies pushed towards this country by these organizations to their main advantage. And the main advantage is total takeover of food production and land. So once they take over your land and they're the ones selling you food, they're saying before 2030, an individual should not eat more than 16 kilos of meat. Before 2030, an individual should not eat more than 90 kilos of dairy product in a year. They're saying before 2030, motor vehicles should be reduced in the sense that only 200 cars must be shared with about 1,000 people. So it's a big agenda and it's heading towards the 2030 agenda. But Kenyans are still sleeping, Oga. Most of these politicians who are implementing and passing these bills do not even read those bills. So it is time our politicians need to wake up. Roles of MPs are oversight, legislation, and representation. Those three. So once you take over all that land, because Kenyans are not able to afford farming, Kenyans are not able to plant or keep cattle or own land, what do? You need to relocate them. And that is why the government is building new housing projects. These politicians forget that they are also in the menu. You know, they think they're on the table. Yeah. They are also in the menu. And in fact, it will be more painful for them because most of them are the ones stealing and buying huge chunks of land. All that land will go. The ultimate goal is to take over the entire land and ownership of property from individuals to big corporations. So politicians should wake up and understand that they are also in the menu. They are not punishing us. They are punishing themselves and their kids and their generations and the generations of this country of ours, Kenya. These implementations that are taking place, can imagine someone like you're not even aware. And I want you to go do your research. Kenyans, we are putting our energies in the wrong and focusing on the wrong things. We have a problem, Oga.